Llama 370B at full precision needs about 140 gigabytes of memory just to load. Your RTX 4090 has 24. So how are people running that exact model on a single gaming card in their bedroom? They didn't shrink the model's intelligence, they shrank its numbers. That trick is called quantization. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how it crams a data center model onto hardware you can actually afford. A model's knowledge lives in its weights, billions of numbers learned during training. By default, each weight is stored as a 16-bit floating point number, 2 bytes. Multiply 2 bytes by 70 billion weights and you land at that 140 gigabyte wall. Here's the key insight. Most of those bits are wasted. A weight like 0.073418652 carries a long tail of decimal precision. The model barely uses when it makes a prediction. Quantization asks a blunt question. What if we stored each weight in 4 bits instead of 16? That's 1/4 of the memory. 140 gigabytes collapses toward 35, and suddenly it fits. So how do you squeeze a rich decimal number into 4 bits, which can only represent 16 possible values? You don't round blindly, you map. Step 1. Take a block of weights, say 32 or 64 of them, and find the largest magnitude in that block. Step 2. Use that maximum to compute a scale factor, a single number that stretches the tiny 16-value grid to cover the real range of that block. Step 3. Snap every weight in the block to its nearest point on that grid and store just the 4-bit index plus the one shared scale. When it's time to compute, you multiply the index back by the scale to reconstruct an approximate weight. It's lossy, you never get the exact original back. But because you calibrate per small block instead of across the whole model, the error stays tiny where it matters. This is the core idea behind formats like GPTQ, AWQ, and the GGUF Q4 files you download from Hugging Face. Here's the part that surprises people. Dropping from 16 bits to 4 usually costs only a couple of % on benchmark accuracy. Why so little? First, neural networks are trained to be robust to noise. A little rounding looks like the noise they already tolerate. Second, the smart methods protect what matters. AWQ, for example, identifies the small fraction of salient weights that drive the biggest activations and keeps them at higher precision, quantizing only the rest hard. So you're not compressing everything equally, you're spending your bit budget where the model actually feels it, and starving the parts it doesn't. Quantization isn't free. Push too far, down to 2 or 3 bits, and the model starts to fumble. It drops facts, loses the thread in long reasoning, and gets repetitive. 4-bit weights mean less data to haul from memory, which often makes generation faster, not just smaller. Memory bandwidth is usually the bottleneck, not raw math. But the weights have to be unpacked back to a usable form during compute, so a bad kernel can hand back the speed you just saved. The sweet spot most people land on today is 4-bit for weights, sometimes 8-bit, with the newest activations kept a little richer. That's the balance. Maximum shrink, minimal brain damage. So when someone says they're running a 70 billion model locally, they almost never mean the full precision original. They mean a 4-bit quantized version. They mean the same learned knowledge stored in numbers that are deliberately, cleverly imprecise. Quantization is the reason the frontier moved out of the data center and onto desks. Not a smaller brain, a smaller way of writing it down. If you're running models locally, drop the exact quant you use in the comments. Q4_K_M, AWQ, GPTQ, and the GPU you run it on. I want to see how far people are actually pushing this. Next in this series, the KV cache and why a long chat quietly gets slower the more you type.